From two of the greatest ever NBA stars beefing for over a decade, to two more NBA legends working out their problems with a wrestle, these are the NBA players with beef who eventually became teammates. In professional sports, it's more than common for players to not get along. While the likes of boxing and MMA use this beefing to hype up the match, with team sports like basketball, beefing can cause some serious harm to the game. Of course, beefing between teams is inevitable. These athletes are born with an intense competitive nature, a character trait that makes them such great athletes. But oftentimes, beefing in basketball can even occur amongst players on the same team. For example, Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal had some tension between them when they played for the Lakers. It's hard to believe that these two legends started out as foes, but that's exactly how it went down. Bryant and Shaq played together on the Los Angeles Lakers for several years, and they were both instrumental in helping the team win 3 consecutive championships from 2000 to 2002. However, despite their success on the court, the two players had a strained relationship off the court. In a number of interviews, both Bryant and O'Neal have talked about the tension between them, with Bryant saying that O'Neal was lazy and O'Neal saying that Bryant was selfish. The two players eventually went their separate ways, with O'Neal being traded to the Miami Heat in 2004 and Bryant continuing to play for the Lakers. After Bryant died in January 2020, Shaq had some time to reconsider their feud and went on to express how much he regretted the bitter feud. Bryant and 8 others, including his daughter Gianna, sadly lost their lives in the 2020 Calabasas helicopter crash while traveling to a basketball game at Bryant's Mamba Sports Academy. The tragic deaths utterly shocked the world of basketball and the whole world in general. Prior to Bryant's death, O'Neal and Bryant threw shade at each other for over 10 years. They were the focus of countless media headlines, and the feud seemed like it was never going to end. Thankfully, in the end, it fizzled out somewhat. The two stars eventually attempted to patch things up in a one-on-one players-only interview, but to some, this makeup felt a little forced, and many basketball fans speculated that it was all for the cameras. O'Neal even stated that he would have done things differently if he had another chance. He stated how he wished he would have spoken to Bryant more often, allowing the two to totally make amends for all of their squabbles. When speaking with People magazine, O'Neal released a heartfelt testimonial saying, "I'll never get to see Kobe again in real life forever, and I just should have called. He should have called. We both should have called." He went on to say how they were both so busy with work that the opportunity to bury the hatchet just kind of slipped away. But the story hopefully serves up as motivation for other basketball stars who are currently beefing to just let things go and make up, because life's too short. But that's easier said than done, and there are plenty of other NBA stars who have beefed with each other over the years. Cough cough, LeBron James and Kyrie Irving. These two megastars have made countless headlines over the years for their back and forth. LeBron James and Kyrie Irving played together on the Cleveland Cavaliers for several years, and they were both a major part in helping the team win the NBA championship in 2016. However, despite their massive success on the court, the two players had some serious beef off the court. In 2017, Irving requested a trade from the Cavaliers, citing a desire to be the focal point of his own team. This move was seen by many as a direct result of his dissatisfaction with playing alongside James. In a string of interviews, both players have talked about the rivalry between them, with James saying that he was surprised by Irving's decision to leave, and Irving saying that he wanted to play for a team where he could be the number one option. And believe it or not, Irving isn't the only player that James has beefed with during his time on the court. One of the most exciting playoff matchups of all time was the duel between LeBron James and Lance Stephenson. The two players' antics on and off the court helped fuel this rivalry to a bitter peak. So, let's take a trip all the way back to 2012, when James was still playing for the Miami Heat. Stephenson would come up with a variety of ways to frustrate James, and the absolute pinnacle of these mischievous antics came in the 2014 Eastern Conference Finals. Midway through the game, Stephenson baffled basketball fans when he enigmatically blew into the ear of James. While James maintained his composure at the time, this only sparked a silly back and forth between the men. This included plenty of pushes and shoves, elbows, and funny faces galore. Despite this strange and bitter rivalry, the two stars eventually wound up playing for the same team during the 2018-19 season on the Lakers. But sadly, this strange team-up didn't garner much success. The Lakers suffered heaps of injury setbacks, including a nasty groin injury to James. As a result of this, the team finished as the 10th seed in the West, and after one season, this team-up was officially done. And we can safely assume that both men were grateful for this. Stevenson was later asked about the strange moment he blew in James's ear. He said, "I didn't have it prepared. It was all in the flow of the game, being out there competing." He went on to say he will do whatever it takes to win the game, and that James is a tough guy to guard, so you gotta bring your all, and that's what I did. But if you ask us, it was still a weird stunt to pull, and he was lucky that James didn't embark on an all-out outburst right there on the court. Speaking of outbursts, superstar DeMarcus Cousins has a long-standing reputation for his expressive outbursts on the court, and he's also renowned for his feud with Kevin Durant. While Cousins was playing for the New Orleans Pelicans, opposing players like Durant were hell-bent on taking advantage of Cousins' emotional side. With over a minute remaining in a regular season game, the Pelicans were down 8, and this caused some feistiness on the court. Cousins and Durant entered into a shoving match and got all up in each other's faces for an extremely overheated discussion. This caused them both to be ejected from the game altogether. But the scrap didn't end there. Cousins reportedly went looking for Durant in the locker room after. Things then escalated fast. In fact, things got so heated that security guards had to step in and restrain Cousins. Thankfully, that put a stop to the rivalry, and it didn't come to actual blows. Now, let's jump forward to the opening of the 2018-2019 season. Here, Cousins found himself on Golden State. During this time, Durant and the Warriors were on a solid journey to achieve a three-peat. And an old beef wasn't going to get in the way of that. Durant and Cousins later publicly shed some light on how they squashed their beef that night. They wrestled. You heard that right. Nothing strange about two NBA All-Stars wrestling their way to amends, right? Whether this is true or not, they certainly seem to patch things up. But sadly, not all squashed beefs lead to a shining victory. While the Warriors did make it to the finals, a series of injuries obstructed their three-peat optimisms. Durant agonized a torn Achilles that would render him useless for the rest of the series and the whole next season. As well as this, flamboyant teammate Klay Thompson submitted to a super nasty torn ACL, striking him out completely. With such huge injuries damaging the team and the Toronto Raptors playing an exceptional game of basketball, the Warriors eventually conceded in 6 games. But we can still take comfort in the fact that Cousins and Durant patched things up. And who knows, maybe they're good buddies to this day. So, from two of the greatest ever NBA stars beefing for over a decade, to two more NBA legends working out their problems with a wrestle, these were NBA players with beef who eventually became teammates.